working out what your income will be during maternity leave. So this is the first step that you need to take to make your maternity leave budget. In the video today, I'm going to take you step by step through exactly what you need to do to get a very specific and relevant maternity leave income budget just for you. So what we're covering is step one, how to find out what your income will be. So maternity leave is not really like normal sort of non-maternity leave. Your income's very different. It comes at different times. So what we're talking about today is very specific for maternity leave. I'm going to show you how to make sure you don't miss out on anything. It's very easy to sort of skip to the end and go, right, I'm done, and then realise you've left stuff off. So try and be really thorough and make sure that you've got everything that you need in your budget. I'm going to show you how to get everything into your budget. So you can either do it on paper, or you can do it on your own spreadsheet, or you can use mine. And I'm going to show that during this video. So before we start off, I thought it's worth sharing this fact. So did you know that the average newborn in the UK actually costs about £184 a week to look after? So by the time you feed them, clothe them, keep their bottoms clean and everything else that you need, it's about £184 on average. Now, when you compare that to the average amount of maternity pay, which is £151 at the time of recording this video, you've got quite a big gap, so £30 a week, where you're going to have to fill that in with some other source of income to keep things going. And don't forget, you've still got to feed yourself on top of all of that. So it's not all bad news though. So maternity pay, although it's nothing like what you're probably used to for most of us, if you've got a very generous employer, you might be lucky, and your maternity pay might be, very similar to your salary. But for most people, it's quite a drop in the ocean in comparison. But when you take the time to sort of sit down, take a breath, and look at the bigger picture, it's not all bad, as we'll see as we work through all of the steps I'm going to take you through today. Now, the reason why this is important is because your income during maternity leave, it's really fixed. Now, the government have already decided what you're going to get. So they'll have decided how much your statutory maternity pay is. They've decided the rules that let you know whether you get any benefits. And there's not a lot you can do about that. So it's really natural to kind of be quite angry once you start to see the numbers and how low they are. But there's not a lot you can do. And it's really important that you don't get too stressed about it. Instead, focus on the things you can control, which is making sure you're really thorough with your budgeting, so getting all of the income into your plan that you will receive. And then, as we'll see in another video, making sure you're making that money work really hard, because there's nothing like a restricted income to really make you sit down and focus on where your money is going. So I touched on it earlier. I like to talk about, unfortunately have to talk about a thing called the maternity pay money gap. So that is the difference between what your maternity leave is, so the time you are allowed to be away from work, versus the time that you actually get paid. So in the UK, we're quite sort of lucky in some senses, and we get quite a long maternity leave. So our job's protected, for up to 52 weeks. However, we get quite a low amount of pay. So after 33 weeks, you'll pay, after 39 weeks, your pay will stop, your maternity pay. And obviously the first 6 weeks of it is sort of very close to your normal salary. But for the last sort of 33 weeks, it's actually very low. So you're going to have 13 weeks where you are, if you don't get benefits, you'll have no money coming in at all. So before we start, have you actually thought about how long you plan to be away from work? Now, if you haven't, it's not a problem, but it does help when we're trying to figure out how many months we need to budget for. So, at the worst case scenario, 12 months, and sort of with some extra leave either side. Or if you're adamant you don't want that long, do it for 6 months or 9 months, or however you want to do it. But a rough idea that you can kind of tweak as we go along will be helpful. Now, as with all this stuff, I'm going to take it one step at a time. So each process, I'll talk you through the entire process of gathering all your income together, give you some homework to do, so getting you ready for school in a few years' time. So At the end of each sort of section, I'll talk you through what you need to do, where you go and find out your information, and then what you need to do with it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is annual leave or holidays, whatever you want to call it, before you actually officially start maternity leave. So don't start maternity leave until you absolutely have to. Now, the latest you can start, as if you've seen my other content, is on your due date. But you'll obviously be very uncomfortable probably those last few weeks. So use any annual leave or holidays you've got owing to you to finish work earlier, or even work part-time, which I've done both of them and thoroughly recommend either. But that's a way that you can kind of extend the time you're away from work. So finishing work a bit early when you're quite uncomfortable, but also getting paid that higher amount for it. Because what you don't want is to say, start maternity leave, 6 weeks before your due date. So that's 6 weeks. And the second you say, I want it to start, it's ticking away at that maternity leave and maternity pay. So the sooner it starts, the sooner it's going to end, and the sooner, A, you're going to run out of money, and B, you're going to be forced back to work. And neither of those want to be forced upon you until you are ready. So the first thing I want you to do is go away and have a look in your payroll records, however it's kept where you work. How much leave have you got left before your due date? So can you use some of that to finish work earlier or to work part-time? And then I want you to go away and figure out how much that's worth to you. So is it 4 days? Is it 14 days? You might not have any left. Go away and figure out how much that's worth to you. So just a normal week's pay if it's 5 days, and so on. If you can't get right to the penny, it doesn't matter. Just have a really good estimate. So once you've done that, we're going to look at maternity pay, which is obviously the main source of income during maternity leave. So like I said earlier, has to start on your due date, whether the baby's here or not. Now, by that point, you will have already said, I want to start my maternity pay on X date. So obviously your leave will start then. So it's either going to start on your due date or a date you've picked before then. Now, as a minimum, you should receive statutory maternity pay. And if you're not entitled to that, you should be entitled to maternity allowance. So you obviously need to check which category you fall into. So statutory maternity pay is for the first 6 weeks about 90% of your normal pay. Some places pay 100% of their normal pay because it's easier for them, but just do check what applies to you. And then obviously we have 33 weeks at the lower amount, which currently is £151. I expect that to go up in April 2022 when all of the rates are uplifted. And then if you think that your employer is quite generous, go away and check and see if they do pay any more. I've experienced sort of both ends of the spectrum where had statutory maternity pay only, and then been somewhere else, and they paid sort of 12 weeks on full pay, 12 weeks on half pay. So go and find out what's available to you. So the task for this section is obviously to go away and find out what your maternity pay actually is. So is it that standard statutory amount, whether it's statutory maternity pay or maternity allowance, or is it that you are going to get a bit more from where you work, which might give you a bit more money? So pause the video and go away and check on how much that money's worth to you. Okay, so item number 3 is keeping in touch days, or sometimes called kit days. Now, these are sort of a hidden gem that I never really knew about. Well, I did know about them, but I didn't really make the effort to find out enough detail. And I kind of could have done with them on my first maternity leave. So that up to 10 days of paid days where you can come into work don't affect your entitlement to maternity pay or maternity leave. But you should always be paid at least the minimum wage, but always check with where you work to agree up front before you even commit to any of them, because obviously they're not compulsory. You can't make them let you take them, and vice versa. But if you are going to do some kit days, always agree up front what you'll be paid before you commit to them. And also, you shouldn't, you don't have to do a full day's work to get a full day's pay. So it's 10 days available, up to 10 days. if you come in one day for an hour and it's classed as kit, then that's a day gone. So make sure that you're fully aware of what you're getting paid and what's expected of you on those days. So your task now, before you carry on in this video, is to go away and see what potential income you can get from kit days. So if you're not sure, worst case scenario, they have to pay you minimum wage. Best case, they pay you your normal sort of hourly rate or daily rate, whatever it might be. So pause the video and go away and see how much those kit days are worth to you. So the fourth one, so at the start we talked about annual leave and holidays before maternity leave. So when that 52 weeks or whatever time it is that you've taken is officially over, so you can then start to take all of the annual leave that you missed out on during that 52 weeks or however long your maternity leave was. So while you're away from work, all of that holiday time you miss out on is owed to you at the end of maternity leave. So this should either be taken in those days, so you should sort of have paid time off like you normally would for your holidays, or if you can't come to that arrangement, they should at least offer to pay those days to you. But generally, it's take your holidays before you come back to work. Now, you can't take them, unfortunately, until your maternity leave is officially over, because during that 52 weeks, you can't get any payment other than kit or maternity pay. So what I'd like you to do now is pause the video, go away and find out how much annual leave you'll be entitled to when you come back to work. So it should just be, if you're away for 52 weeks, what's a whole year's worth of holiday to you? If it's 4 weeks, what's 4 weeks pay? Make sure that obviously you can sort of fit it around the calendar and there's no restrictions on your holiday calendar and so on. So go and check that out, come back and stick that into your budget. Item number 5, very similar to item number 4. So also while you're away from work, you'll have missed 8 to 10 days of bank and public holidays, depending on where you live. So if you'd normally be paid for your bank holidays, it should be in your employment contract, you will also be owed these at the official end of your maternity leave. So like your annual leave and holidays, you would take these days or have them paid to you, whatever you agree, before you start back at work. So what I want you to do now is go and see what those days are worth to you. So if it's 8 public holidays, what's 8 days worth of pay to you in the bank? And then the last one, which is I've sort of said as other income, which is a few different things. So what else have you got sort of that you're aware of that you might get during your maternity leave? So you might be owed a bonus or have allowances and things that are still going to get paid to you during maternity leave. You might have a business. So what business income would you get? And benefits, I'll talk about that in more detail in a second. Obviously check what you're entitled to. And another thing is around insurance policies. So I had forgotten when I had my second pregnancy that I had an insurance policy through my health insurance provider that paid a maternity benefit. I'd forgotten all about it. And then sort of it hit me in the middle of the night one night when my twins were very small. Oh, I must claim for that insurance policy. And it was quite a nice amount. And they paid me per baby as well. So I wasn't expecting that. I hadn't planned that in. So that was like winning the lotto at that time. So go away and check all those different things. See what else you're entitled to. You might have other investment income and so on that you can put into your budget. So a final word about benefits. So lots of people are very reluctant. They think, I'm not entitled to anything, I won't bother. But go and check. So there's a great sort of independent of the government website called untitled2.co.uk, and you've got all of your benefit checkers on there. Also, if you've got a business, there's business benefit checkers on there as well. So go and check on there and see what you might be entitled to. And even if it's just the sort of child tax benefit, which is about £200, well, it's less than £200 a month, but pays for your nappies. You've got to start thinking in terms of that small amount of money, not worth a lot. Oh, hang on, I can pay for nappies with that. I can put that away for the 12-week mark when the baby needs more clothes or needs more equipment or whatever it might be. So Before you do anything else, go over there and have a look and see what you might be entitled to. Right, so what I want you to do next is obviously all of those bits of homework, go away and find that information, and then I'm going to start to show you how we can get that into our maternity leave budget. But first, I'm going to actually show you how you can go and download my free budget calculator and maternity leave planner. So I will show you on the screen recording exactly what you need to do. Hi, and thanks for joining. I thought that it would be a really good idea to show you the inside of my maternity leave planner. This is the free version that you find on my website, and I'll show you further in the video how to download that. And I'll just show it to you here. Now, obviously, it's a digital download, but I've got a printed copy because that's easier for me. So it's quite a hefty document. It's about 60 odd pages long. And the whole purpose of it is so you've got somewhere to do your homework in the book as we work through, but also the activities in this video, you can do these in your planner. So even though I say it's a 60 odd page document, you might not have the ability to print that many pages, but even if you just print sort of some of them, they're really, really helpful and a great place to sort of scribble and make your notes. So if I flick to chapter 3, which is all about your maternity leave income, and it just steps you through the process. It's really easy. So everything I've talked about on the video, also everything I talk about in chapter 3 of the book, it's all in here, somewhere for you to make your notes, scribble down how much your maternity pay is going to be, etc. A great place for sort of recording everything that you need to worry about. So if I turn to page 23 on here, it's basically a checklist. I hope you can see that on the video. A checklist of all the different sorts of income that you could possibly think about that is special for maternity leave. Plenty of space here for you to write down all of the stuff that's special just to you. But here, you can record your amount, your frequency, so is it coming weekly, monthly, quarterly, so on, how long you're going to get that for during maternity leave. So that's really important, obviously, for your maternity pay. So are you getting 33 weeks at the statutory amount, or are you getting more? And obviously what that total income is during maternity leave. So really good place to sort of do all the research that I asked you to do for the different sorts of income. So a great place to make your notes before you transfer it to your budget planner. And then on the last page of that chapter, again, hope you can see it there, really helpful checklist that you can work down each of them, all the questions that help you, but obviously covered on the video as well. So easy, 10 things for you to do, and then go away and find the information, and then you're well on your way to getting your maternity leave budget together. Okay, so if you've downloaded the maternity leave budget through the Google Doc, so obviously the link is in the back of the free planner that I showed you earlier. Save your own copy, so it should hopefully default to your version of the file. Make sure it's saved on your own drive. I don't keep any information, nothing's been uploaded back into my drives or anything crazy like that, so you don't need to worry that I'm storing any of your data. Now, if you're familiar with spreadsheets, this is obviously a Google Doc, so it's slightly different to Microsoft Excel, but still, the logic's very similar. So here we've got sort of how to use this template. So I've protected a lot of the cells, so only enter information where the boxes are empty. Otherwise, some of the calculations will be a bit odd and you won't know what they're for. So as I said, download and save it to your own device. Don't work on the original. Really important to make sure that all the stuff's saved on your own device. So here we've got on the income tab, so this is tab number 1 here, populate the brown boxes with the names of the months you're on maternity leave and put the number of the months of your maternity in column T. So here, just helps with all the calculations that are in the file. So once you've done that once, the rest of the sheet should have all of that information for you, if all of my links are correct. And then you need to work through each of the income and expense tabs. So I'm going to cover off in separate videos each of the tabs, so they're obviously within the other bigger videos that explain more detail about each of the items. So as you're completing your information, lots of the other sheets are populating, particularly these other ones down here, the savings and the reports. So once you've entered your income and expenses, so tab 1 and 2, you can start to see the savings calculation sheet populate. So there's lots of spaces on here for you to do experiments and say, if I stop spending £100 a week on takeaways or whatever, what would that do to my maternity leave budget? And then when we come to 5, which is the savings breakdown, which I'll just show you here, it will start to turn your savings goal into much smaller items. Purpose of that is so it's much more manageable for you to deal with. And then the last 2 reports here, tabs here, are reports, and they start to sort of summarize the information that you've been putting in there. So I've got category groups here just to make it easy for you, so that you're kind of like triggering your mind to think about all the different sorts of expenses you might have, and you can expand them down the side here, so with these plus buttons. So you see here there's some examples of some categories, and that's all there is to it. So I'm going to, you don't need to worry, I'm going to take you exactly through what you need to do. So in this video we're going to talk all about income, so we're just going to focus on tab number 1. Okay, so you remember from earlier in this video I did ask you to go away and do some research and look at the sorts of income you'll get during maternity leave. Now before we do that, let's follow the instructions and put in here, in month number 1, what's the first month of our maternity leave going to be? So I'm going to put in here July 22, and then I'm going to just update all these months here. oops. Can't believe I'm putting 23 in here. So let's keep going until we've got, say, 13 months away from work. Okay, let's delete those, we don't need those. And we've got 14 months away. Okay, so August, let's just check them all. Even though I'm not having a baby, I do get still get baby brain sometimes. So August, September, October, November. Okay, so we've put all our months there. Now you don't need to do that again. That's a one-time activity and it should flow through to the other areas. So we can hide that now if we want to. It makes the page a bit neater. Right, so if you've seen earlier in the video where I asked you to go away and research all of the different things that you, all the different sorts of income you might get during maternity leave. So I'm obviously going to just make numbers up here. Yours might be much less or much more, it doesn't matter, but for the purposes of demonstration, this is what I'm going to do. Right, so let's assume we've got a month's of pay left before our due date. Say our due date's in August, and I'm going to get £1,500 in July because I'm going to finish work in July. Right, maternity pay in August, so let's say I've got 4 weeks of normal, so that's £1,500, and then I've got another 2 weeks of the 6 weeks pay, which is a lot higher. Let's say that's £750, and then we go into October and we've got, and I'm just guessing here how many weeks are in these months, so make sure we're got enough, so that's 4 weeks, 6 weeks and so on. So make sure you don't overcook it and put too many weeks worth in. So you want to stop at week 33 if you're just on statutory maternity pay. Okay. Right, so salary and wages, I've left this line in here because I've sort of set these files and templates up on the basis you might be on your own or you might have a partner who might be contributing to this budget. So you may want to put their salary and wages in here. Up to you, but it's meant to be sort of flexible for whatever your sort of family situation is. Right, so annual leave at the end of maternity leave. So before we come back to work, we might have 4 weeks to take there, another 2 weeks to take there. Right, other employment income, let's just say we're going to get a £50 bonus. Right, bank holidays missed. So again, like annual leave, while we're away from work, they continue to build up. Let's say we've got 8 days of those, and let's say they're worth £500. Take those before we come back to work. Business income. So, you know, even if you sold Body Shop or something like that, or you know, did craft on the side or whatever, you can put that in here. So let's say we make £50 a month from our business. If you're handy with a spreadsheet, you can see what I'm doing with copy and paste. Right, so benefits, as I always say, even if you think you won't get anything, you won't know if you won't. Don't ask. So your child tax benefit, which I think is about £20 odd a week, if nothing else, it pays for nappies. So don't discount it entirely. It is sort of worth, for one child, worth about £80 a month, I think. So let's put that in there. Okay, right, keeping in touch days. So if you've watched the other videos, you'll know what they're all about. So let's assume we do a couple of keeping in touch days here. So let's say we do 2 and they're worth £200 to us. Do another 2 there, worth £200. Another 2 there, another 2 there, and another 2 there. So let's assume that's £1,000, so that's £100 a day for 10 days. Right, bonuses and commissions, you might get that from where you work. I've just left that in there to cover all sort of circumstances. If it doesn't apply, don't put anything in. Interest and dividends, similarly, you know, you might have some money from some investments, so let's just put £5 in for that. You might have other investment income. I know not many of us do, but if you do, you can put that in there. Right, transfer from savings. So you might already be quite savvy and have built up a bit of a savings fund where you want to put some savings into the mix here. So probably over here when you run out of money. So let's say you're already going to contribute some savings from your already saved money. And then I've got space here for other, so you can put in there whatever you like. Then if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, oops, sorry, you've got here to row 34. If you need more, enter them here. But if you want to see how things are starting to add up, look here in this row number 8. So this pink and blue all the way across here, income section. So you'll start to notice your income is starting to go down. Yeah, so once you hit that week 33 mark, you're going to see some quite big gaps. So expect to have to really cut back on what you're spending there, or start filling those gaps up with savings. Okay, so that's all there is to it from an income point of view. Obviously watch the rest of the video to learn about all these different sorts of income and where you have to go to find out about them.